Hi everyone. Have a feeding and nutrition style video for you today. What we're going to be doing is making pollen supplement patties. It's not a pollen substitute, it's a pollen supplement, and this is to put on hives during periods to supplement the bees' intake of pollen. Let's say you want to put it on a week before pollen flow starts in the spring, and just in case weather becomes a factor and they have to shut down from collecting pollen from, say, a willow or maple or whatever early in the spring. It'll get them over that hump. Also good for mating nucleus colonies, to give them a boost. Mating nucleus colonies generally have very, very few bees, and therefore if they are sitting on, let's say you gave them a frame of eggs, they can't spare much resource to get off of the brood trying to create a queen cell or whatever. So they can only send out limited bees out to forage. So giving them a little bit of pollen patty and some feed gets them over that, sugar syrup, gets them over that that hump, and allows them to access food very, very close, so they don't have to leave the cluster for very long to get food in the hive, and keep the queen, since it's a mating nuke, keep the queen maybe laying eggs and brood, whatever you need, whatever they need, and they can devote more resource to covering up the eggs, and they can create a bigger brood nest accordingly. The cost of pollen patties is sort of extreme, and more, for a hobby keeper with one or two hives. Sure, you go to a place like Man Lake and buy pre-made bee patties, or if you happen to live next to a local bee supplier, their patties. I think Man Lake sells a 10-pound box for somewhere around $30 plus shipping. And then if you have more hives, you can get a 40-pound box for about $72 plus shipping. I'm going to do it today for about, I'm going to make approximately 37 pounds of patty, and it's going to cost me roughly $30. So you can either pay $2 a pound or less than $1 a pound. I guess that's entirely up to you. I've got it calculated here now. Some of the things that I use for my recipe, my recipe really, really worked out well for me last year. I think I could have made it a little moister, so I'm gonna leave in a little bit more vegetable oil this time, but it really did. The bees took it down really well. The only time I had problem with the bees taking it down and the patty actually drying out and me having to throw it away was literally at a time when they had plenty of pollen and they ignored it, which is perfectly normal. They will, obviously, if it's a supplement, they would rather go for the real thing than the supplement. And as soon as the real thing starts coming in, they'll totally ignore it. The other time it really dried out was if I had a broodless colony. There was no need for them to really take it down. They'd nibble on it a little bit because of the sugar, but for the most part, they kind of ignored it. But the way I stored it, the way I wrapped it, and also I want to make it just a little bit more malleable so I can press it into the hive if I need to a little bit easier. So that's why I'm going to leave in a little bit more vegetable oil this time, and I'm going to share with you the recipe I'm using. Today's recipe, I'm using 20 pounds of sugar. Last year I used 25 pounds of sugar, so I'm reducing. I've adjusted the recipe accordingly. Now, one of the things that you'll note, I use Ultra Bee This is sold by Man Lake. Now you can buy a 1 pound jar of this, a 10-pound jar. I think that's it. In or a 50-pound bag you can also buy. The more you buy, the less it is. I think a 10-pound box is. I didn't really look at the price. I think it's $30 for a 10-pound box or pail of Ultra Bee. A 50-pound bag is $95.95. It's 96 bucks plus shipping. But if you buy $4.05 more items, you get free shipping on it. So roughly $2 a pound is what a 50-pound bag. And let me tell you, it actually goes a long way. Up here, I'm in an area, I've tried to use dry pollen in the springtime to allow the bees to access it. For whatever reason, when they can get out here to forage, they're finding pollen. It's so they don't really ever go for the dry powder pollen substitute like they would maybe down south when they have, the bees can fly in, well now, and it's January, and but there is absolutely nothing out there for them to forage on. They would go nuts for something like this. That's just not the case for me here in central Wisconsin. There might be one day here or one day there where they might, I don't know, but all I can tell you is it doesn't work well for me. I've pretty much given up that, and now I just make the pollen patties, and they can access it when they need it in the early spring. Like I said, I don't feed up to them during the summer or anything like that. There's absolutely no need. I'll also throw it on in the fall if they need it. If it's been extraordinarily wet fall and the goldenrod pollen, they've just not been able to access it, and when they can get out to access it, it's all wet, so they can't. There is no pollen. Then I give them a patty to try to get them to create that nice, really winter nest, and we're talking about early September-ish to create that nest. End of August, early September, you really want to get them boosted up so they can create that winter nest, real nice, healthy winter nest. But so I bought this. This lasts me. This is, I think, my 4th year I've had this bag. Last year, if you remember, I did a video and I made 40 pounds of pollen patty. All I used was 12.5 pounds of Ultra Bee powder, because a patty really only contains, and roughly what our target is roughly 16 or 15% crude protein by weight in the patty. That's our target. The rest is sugar or the filler from the pollen supplement. With my recipe, my protein is rated about 16.67%, roughly somewhere around there. This Ultra Bee, like right here, it says 60% crude protein by weight. So for every pound, you're getting 0.6 pounds of protein for every pound of powder that you use. So that's what we go in for. With my recipe, roughly it's 20 pounds of sugar. It's about $7.80 for the sugar for 20 pounds. 10 pounds of Ultra Bee, that's $20. 10 cups of water, that's free. 1 1/4 cups of vegetable oil. It's $1.99 for this entire bottle. So you're just talking about 25 cents or so for that. And then sort of the same for the lemon juice. It's 1 1/4 cups of that. Now I'm actually bumping this up. I'm going to use 1 1/2 cups of vegetable oil. I misspoke. to try to boost it a little bit. And that's it for the recipe. We need a tub to put the mix the sub in, and to store it overnight, because we're going to actually, after we mix it up, we're going to put the lid on and let it just soak up and gel, and so it becomes almost like Play-Doh tomorrow. And then we will cut it up, put it on wax paper, and put the wax paper in some freezer bags, and then we can freeze them, and it'll last all year long for you. So I'm gonna start by, I got a little scale here, and okay, so I've got this tared out, and we're gonna weigh out 10 pounds of pollen sub. And actually I'm gonna go for a little less messy. Get up to 10 pounds. Okay, we're at 6 pounds there. I'm at exactly 6 pounds there. So I'm going to put the sugar down first. These are 10-pound bags. Okay. And then I'm going to dump this in. Pollen sub is very voluminous. Okay, that is 4 pounds, or 10 pounds exactly. 6 in one, and now I also have a way to mix it. I've got a drill with a, what it is a bread mixer for my mixing bowl. And I've never used it before, but because I don't make bread, but I figure, what the hell, this has got to work pretty well for doing this. And what I'm going to do is mix the sugar and the pollen together. Now I just want to take a quick look and see if it got all the sugar up or not, and pretty much it has. I don't see hardly any sugar in, well, a little bit. It's hard to get it lifted off the bottom. Okay, I've got ten cups of water, and then I'm going to add to that 1.5 cups of vegetable oil. Okay. It's not going to mix real well, but that's okay. Ooh. And then we've got some lemon juice here. Then we're going to do 1 1/4 cups of that. Actually, I think I'm just going to do, well, 1 cup. 1 1/4. Ain't going to hurt anything. 1 1/4 cups of lemon juice. That's for the citric acid. Now, personally, I don't know what the citric acid does to help the bees, but I used it last year. My bees loved my pollen patties, pretty much for the most part. So I don't see anything wrong with it. I'd like to know exactly what it does to help this recipe and help the bees. The lemon might help attract them. Don't know what the citric acid actually does. Okay. So we've got all that. Just going to give that a little mix. And then away we go. Now this could get a little messy. Now once we do this, we're going to get to a certain point where it's going to be necessary to get in it with your hands and knead it like you would bread dough. Okay. Take my wooden spoon out, and I got a whole bunch of powder that I haven't mixed in yet. And then, like I said, eventually you're going to have to get in here and, by hand and do this. Sort of knead it by hand. It is a bit of a mess, I ain't gonna lie to you, but well worth it for the cost savings. If I can save, you know, $50 by doing it myself and then having plenty on hand for when I need it and not running out, well, then all the better. 50-pound bag has lasted me, like I said, almost 4 years. And I'm going to have to get more next year, but it was, you know, a good investment. So essentially what I look at it, I paid for that 4 years ago with my initial investment. All I had to pay for was, you know, $8 in sugar and a couple of dollars in lemon juice and vegetable oil. So I just made 40 pounds of sub this year for myself for under $10. Beat that. But realistically, yeah, it'll cost you roughly $30 for this batch. And that's still saving you a minimum. Let's see, the shipping on a 10-pound container I know is $12.95. The 40-pound, I've never ordered that, so I don't know how much that would cost to ship. So ordering that $95.95 and then ordering something for $4 more, you know, you can get a, you know, go order yourself a bunch of feeder plugs. Those feeder plugs, they go on the top of the hive. Those are like 25 cents a piece. Go order, you know, 25 of those or something like that. Okay, like I said, you're going to have to eventually kind of dig in, get your hands dirty, and knead this a little bit like a baker would. Now there are some people that will take this and just throw it in a 5-gallon bucket, put the lid on it, and then scoop it out with an ice cream scoop onto wax paper as they dole out their hives. You know, to each their own. It's the same. I just make my patties ahead of time, that's all. We've got it pretty well mixed. Snap the lid on, and we're going to leave this over for overnight. Maybe a little longer, but we'll definitely take a look tomorrow morning and see the consistency of it. And then we'll get ready to slice some patties. Okay, it's the following morning. We've let this set overnight to soak in and dissolve all the sugars and let the pollen supplement bind with the mixture thoroughly, so it should be more like you know, Play-Doh or something like that, and a consistency that we can work with. I don't want mine gooey, but I don't want it dry and brittle either. So it's kind of a fine line there, and I did put a little bit more vegetable oil in there than I did last time, and it was pretty sticky at the end there, but we'll see how it turned out. I don't have too much. This stuff, man, when it gets on your hands, man, it stinks. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna see how it, oh, it kind of pulls up and won't, yeah, that's good. Actually, really good. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is sprinkle a little sugar down. So that it doesn't stick to the table too much. And then we're just going to flip it over. Without getting my microphone caught in it. Okay. There we go. Now it's separating and falling down. Good. Good. Okie dokie. Kind of came out in one big chunk. That's what we wanted to see. A little bit of pollen dust in the corners, but that's kind of normal. Now what I want to do is cut this into essentially 40 slabs. I'm cutting my patties into 2-inch chunks. That one there was just a little remnant. So 8 inches of paper or so. Is about right for these 2-inch chunks that I'm using. And then I'm using the roller pin to flatten it out a little bit. About the length of this. So that you have a nice patty like that. About a pound. And then I'm cutting them in half. They'll just be easier to put on a nuke or a hive. If it's a full-size hive, I can throw 2 patties on. If it's just a nuke, I can throw 1. If it's a mating nuke, I can split it again in 2 and use it on 2 hives. Mating nukes. Wrapping it takes the longest, by far. Okay, now I'm going to pack these up and take them up to the chest freezer so that I can freeze them, so that I'll have them this spring until they're needed sometime in late March for all my hives starting out, and they'll be able to last up probably all summer long in the freezer. I'll pop them out as I need them in the to make my nucleus colonies, my mating nucleus colonies. And this is a way to make 40 pounds of pollen supplement patty for roughly $30, which is less than half the cost that you can get it at any place such as Man Lake or anywhere else. Like I said, this is roughly, it's close to 40 pounds of bee patties, and the total cost of it. I didn't include the bags or the wax paper or anything, but we're right at about $30 for it. $72.98 is the cost at Man Lake for 40-pound box. Plus, I'm going to guess another 20 bucks in shipping, so you're at $90. So we're well below half the cost. So if you're interested in cost savings, this is an option for you. If you only have a couple of hives, you can do this on a way smaller scale. You can go buy the 1 pound, but again, the bag of pollen sub is a lot cheaper if you buy it in bulk, like at 50 pounds of crack. That way you don't have to pay the shipping cost, and it reduces the cost per pound of it way down. So take care, and remember, all beekeeping is local.